And welcome back, YouTube. It is Thursday, June 30th, 2022, 10:17 a.m. And just leaving the clinic right now. And oh my gosh, so crowded and chaotic in there. And so much of everybody in there just seems to be really, really desperate, as in homeless or close to it. It's really brutal how much Arizona, and from what I hear, the rest of the country is failing the needs of the seriously mentally ill. I'm really thankful that for the diagnoses that I have, that I'm as high functioning as I am, because I very, very, very easily could not be, and it does scare me that, you know, if my symptoms start to get really bad again, I don't have a very good safety net, and it's looking like a lot of people really don't, especially a lot of people at that clinic. Got my boss card, yay. While I was there, I was going through the cards in my pocket, and like I said, my therapist, oh wow, it's a forklift. Every time I look at a forklift, I kind of try to look at the controls to see how much they differ from the ones that I operate, and that one looked radically different. It had a steering wheel like on a car. Yeah, the ones that I saw in front of, or actually behind Costco, they were different from what I operate, but it looked pretty comparable and similar. That looked radically different. So, not that I'm thinking about going somewhere other than Amazon right now, but I don't know. It's a skill that I now have, so kind of looking at other options, because it looks like Amazon's not really keeping with the whole cost of living raise thing. It looks like what happens at Amazon, regardless of additional skills that you learn and additional things that you do, the only raises that seem to happen are just over time, and they seem to be just at a certain percentage raise for every year that we're with the company, and that percentage appears to be notably less than what the current rate of inflation is. And mind you, when they say inflation is 7%, yeah, I don't know where they get the number 7% from, when gas has gone from $2 a gallon to almost $6 a gallon, and rents have gone from like $600 a month to like $1,200 a month. I'm sorry, that's not 7%. And food costs has gone up dramatically. I mean, maybe on some items, you know, I mean, the cost of a pair of flip-flops hasn't gone up that much, but you know, it's not that often I need a pair. And for what it's worth, these Adidas I found in the trunk of this Saturn when I bought it. I hosed them off at the car wash. Been wearing them ever since. It's been about 4 years. I don't need to buy shoes that often. What I need to buy that often is gas, residential rent, and food. And those are the things that are going up way more than 7%. So, and I know it's not me, it's everybody, but people that are working service industry jobs and labor type jobs are just not making ends meet, you know, whether you work for Target or Kentucky Fried Chicken or Amazon. And when I'm looking for jobs that are hiring, you know, for just somebody that's at my general skill level, I mean, you know, it's been several times since I went for the blog, but I mean, I'm a very experienced and knowledgeable taxi dispatcher. and they weren't willing, Yellow Cab wasn't willing to entertain anything beyond, I'm probably saying the wrong figure, but I want to say I'd ask for $20 an hour, and I don't think they were willing to go above like $12.50 an hour or $13 an hour or whatever it was. It was just like, no. And it's crazy that in so much of the country, minimum wage is, and thankfully it's higher here in Arizona, but in so much of the country, minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour. So an hour's worth of labor after taxes, after your income tax is taken off, isn't enough to put $1 worth of gas in your car. That just doesn't math. That doesn't math. Anyway, I mean, I'm thankful. My situation is looking up, but it's not looking up as much as it should. And I'm sitting there, and as I've said many times, like I was hired in at a certain rate of pay, and kind of led to believe that was what my rate of pay for this job was going to be, and then come to find out that that's not what it was. That was a temporary incentive, and when it went down to what I'm getting paid now, which to be honest isn't terrible. I don't want to disclose what it is. To be honest, I don't know what it is, but it my paychecks went down dramatically, and a lot of people quit. They're just like, yeah, and a lot of people look for other jobs. Because I am just kind of the kind of mental health issues I have and the communication, social issues that I have, I don't do well with job hunting and interview processes and whatnot. So, obviously my best maneuver is just stay put. I've often said, get in where you fit in, and against all odds, I fit in at Amazon. And I guess now's a good time to talk about what I did last night, because I had the most fun at work I've had doing any job in a long time. Like, it was legit more fun than doing my karaoke show. I like I said, I felt like I was playing a virtual reality game the entire night. Sort of a strategy, action, skill all rolled into one kind of thing. And I was operating the forklift, but what I was doing, and it sounds painfully boring on the surface, but what I was doing is unloading totes. Unloading empty totes. I know, sounds painfully boring, but it gets interesting. At least it was interesting to me. Now, there's some skill involved in unloading empty totes, because they are packed tightly in the trailers, and some of those trailers have a lower clearance than others. So there's things that will try to knock them off your forks, and knocking them off your forks could potentially result in you're no longer a forklift driver until you get retrained, and then you have to do other positions for a while. And it's crazy that something that doesn't cause any harm can disrupt your job so much. And that's why I think a lot of people don't stick with Amazon and go work for other people, other corporations, other warehouses. But anyway, I digress. What I was doing, so basically I had tighter quarters than I'm used to maneuvering my forklift in, so that's a factor. And I had three docks. So three docks trucks could come into, and then I found out two different configurations of how the totes could be loaded inside the truck. Although only one truck came in the second, much easier to deal with configuration. And then, although I tell you, the height of the truck made a big difference on how easy it was to do. The ones with the low ceilings are tricky to get them out of, whereas the ones with the higher ceilings are much easier to get them out of. There's also the so anyway, I'm loading them in. Two of the bays, two of the docks are in So the way they have the docks arranged at Amazon, I don't think I've ever really explained this, is they have them typically 2 to 3 docks are grouped together, and there will be a safety barrier between those docks to basically allow to prevent 2 forklift operators from hitting each other. There should not be 2 actively working forklift operators in one of these between the safety barriers that have 2 to 3 docks, with truck trailers in them. Now the one that I normally work in doing the wood pallets, it has 2. And on the inbound docks where I normally work, that's generally how they have most of them set up. Basically, you're in an area and you're working on 1, maybe 2 trucks, and they're adjacent to each other. And if somebody comes across, like, they have to open that safety barrier, and then you kind of got to negotiate passage, and then you kind of stop while they go through, and then the gate goes back up, and you go back to work in your own little zone, your own little work zone. So I had 3 docks. I was, oh, look at this. Jaywalking, pulling a bag, clown shoes on? What the heck is going on there? Oh yeah, I'm at the Blade, by the way, 27th Avenue in Indian School. I figure as well as I'm driving over to Bullock's, may as well make the drive interesting. If I can get the story out and y'all can have something fun to look at. I didn't expect that, though. Wow. All right. Nice butt. So where was I? That was distracting, but not in a good way, just kind of a freak show way. Can't believe the 7-Eleven is back open. That's wild. All right, are the lizards out? Is the lizard hunter out? Where's my lizard gang at? Anyway. Oh, and just a little bit of trivia for you. Fun fact, this apartment complex on the right, that is where my ex-wife was living with her parents when I met her. It was not as crappy of a part of town back then, though, to be fair. Anyway, so of these 3 docks that I was working, one was in its own work zone. So it was separated from the main work zone I was in by a kind of a narrow gate that I had to pass through. I think that's a lizard, although she does have quite a bit of clothing on. Have we here? Community Medical Services. Now, the benefit of having that is that occasionally another driver could come in, and by driver I mean forklift driver, could come in and work either the one dock that was by itself or the 2 docks that were separated while I was still working the one of the 2. So there was the option for 2 people working at once, and I did have another guy that came in twice for a very short period of time and helped me. So that was great, because at both times when he came in, I was kind of struggling. The game would almost beat me. I hadn't gone out yet, but I was fallen behind about to the point of losing. And for me, what losing was water spiders with pallet jacks coming to get totes and me not having any available totes ready for them. It did happen occasion, but never for more than just brief moments while I went and opened or closed gates or whatever. Anyway. So yeah, there was that maneuverability issue. That was kind of odd. And then there's now the one area, the main workspace, was larger than an average 2-dock workspace because it also has a pedestrian door. Basically, most likely for truck drivers, though I didn't have, not a single person came in and out at all night, so that's nothing I had to worry about. But it is indicated as a pedestrian crossing with the green tape. So while I can maneuver and work there, I have to be extra careful and be ready for someone that might be going across that way. although the only people that ever came in the one end, because of course it connects, past the forklift zone on the other side to a path that's a designated pedestrian path. There was just an occasional either the one supervisor that came in to talk to see me would come up to the end of that path and kind of wave at me, or it would be one of the other. There were only 2 other forklift drivers that I interacted with all night. And one of them was actually the guy that taught me, and he's also the one who helped me with the totes on occasion, was actually the guy that taught me to drive. And now I've mentioned Angel several times, and he's the one who did the training class and has been doing all the follow-up, training and review with me, although there's not much of that happening anymore. In fact, I'm almost past the point of new operator status where I don't have to wear the new operator vest anymore. But I'll probably continue to wear it just because I like it. But the other guy, and I think his name is Miguel, entertaining character. He's the one that actually gave me my hands-on training on the forklift, which included like this area where there was kind of an obstacle course where I stacked pallets on top of other pallets and totes on top of other totes, and like went through like a little obstacle course and hey, move it from this square to this square kind of thing, which was, hey, you got to start somewhere. And I look back on that and I'm like, God, I was so rough on that. And now I'm pretty good at maneuvering the thing. I mean, I'm by no means an expert, and every now and then I find it. In my mind, I think I'm going to go straight, and I hit the joystick, and I'm just like, the thing is just turning counterclockwise, and I'm like, whoa. I mean, I know that still occasionally happens, so I'm ready. I'm always ready to just let my hand free, and it'll stop, and I know if I move it in the opposite direction, it'll stop quick. But and thankfully, I haven't hit anything, but I've certainly had a couple like close calls. Those happen. Anyway, back to the whole game of what I was doing yesterday. So yeah, there's a lot of people coming from all sorts of different departments. Only one of them was somebody I knew. I know he's coming from NPC, and I'm used to seeing that guy, and I wish I knew his name. Like, I'm super friendly with him, but we've never had any real long conversations. But I do chat with him, on occasion. Mostly, he kind of acknowledges and recognizes that when I'm working the pallet, she's really cute, probably a working girl. I know when, hey Jen, the owner's here, right on, random. I know that when he knows that when I'm there, that I'm very actively working at stacking and organizing the pallets that when they come in, and I'll kind of direct him where I want him to leave the pallets, and I would assume that he, in the grand order of things, like ranks a little higher than I am, is certainly, I'm pretty sure he's worked there longer than me. But anyway, so he was coming. So it was kind of nice to see one familiar face, and he like smiled and waved. He was like, hey, you're over here. I'm like, yup. All the rest of the people coming up with pallet jacks getting totes, I had no idea who they were. But man, sometimes there was a lot of them coming quick. And like when I started, all the zones were full. I'm like, what do I do? And I'm asking, and it wasn't, oh no, I forget his name. It wasn't Miguel, it was the other guy who also had a very Hispanic name. And that guy was super cool. Like when it first started, I'm just like kind of starting. I said, I'm sorry, I'm mildly autistic. You might have to like dumb some of this down for me. I said, but trust me, I'm good on the forklift. Like I just don't know what the workflow is over here. And he kind of explained it, and then I sort of started improvising once I was there to try to make it more efficient. But one thing he did tell me from the beginning is it's like, well, everything's full. What do I do now? He goes, oh, they'll start coming for him quick. He goes, I would highly suggest that you just keep yourself moving at all times and just keep unloading out of the trailer and just stack as many as you can in your work zone where you still have enough room to maneuver around. So when your loading zones, and that's the space that I'm dropping them into, where the guys running the pallet jacks, the water spiders are picking them up at. It's just so when you're ready to fill those zones, you can do them as quick as you can. Now, coming out of the truck, especially if I'm going to the back of the truck, it's a bit of a journey. It takes some time. And with the exception of, like I said, there were 2 truck configurations. Most of them have them stacked. So 2 bundles of totes on top of each other. The one trailer, the last trailer that came in for me, or actually it was my next to last trailer, it surprised me. It was just a single layer of totes. I'm like, oh, that's way easier. Because the most difficult thing, at least for me, is the actual down stacking. Because that needs to be done like more or less right outside the dock. You can't take that. Can't be done in the loading zones. That's against the rules. So you pretty much have to come right out of the door of the dock, and then there is a spot where there's a little circle where, like, theoretically you're supposed to do it, but you don't necessarily have to do it there. But you need to do it in your work zone. You can't be traveling with these stacked pallets. They want you to just pretty much just quickly turn to the side or right in front of the door, and then down stack them. And I quickly learned what seemed to be the best workflow for me was come out with 2, take the top, but turn to the side and kind of stick it out of the way, and then down stack there. And I kind of learned a trick, like, because you can't raise or lower they've got these forklifts configured to where you can't raise, and I've heard that they used to be able to do it, and they changed the software, but you can't raise and lower the forks while you are in motion. Safety. They're trying to idiot-proof them, and I get, with the amount of turnover that Amazon has, I get it, because what I hear experienced forklift drivers, once they get experience under their belt, they go work in another warehouse where they can make $20 an hour, or more. So anyway, and I'm not planning to do that yet, but it's certainly in the back of my mind. Anyway, yeah, so I did find you have to be in motion, and generally, like, the way they train me to do it is stop, bring the 2 totes out, pull out, and you got to back up, the length of your forks, about 3 feet. Raise the fork so it's perfectly lined up, and it's a pretty precision target. There's not a lot of space between these tote things, the way they stack. You gotta have your forks totally level and totally even with it. Go in. Sometimes you gotta do a little adjustment to make that work. It's like, ooh, it's sliding. I'm not in the right spot. Raise it up just a little bit, kind of tilt it back up. Again, 3 feet, but it's hard to see the 3 feet because you can't see through the totes like I can see through the wood pallets. And then lower it down. And even if you're going somewhere with it immediately, you're still not supposed to be traveling with your forks up in the air. And I would imagine that's pretty a normal procedure of any kind of forklift. Obviously, your load and your forklift is better balanced if your load is down low than up high. It's pretty simple physics. At least it seems like simple physics to me. Anyway, so generally the procedure as they teach it is do that, back up 3 feet, drop it down, and then go wherever you're going with the one that you took down once you got it down low but not on the ground, and then come back for the other one. Yeah, that wouldn't have got it done with what that would not have kept up with all the water spiders coming at me today. Wouldn't have even come close to keeping up with them. One trick that I learned, because of course then I'd be still having to kind of back up a turn. Well, I found that I could crank the wheel all the way to the side and then back up and turn at the same time and get myself clear in a tighter space and get myself clear of the bottom one of the 2 totes I took out. And do that. Interestingly, I was able to do that quicker than just backing straight up and then lower my forks. I did have a couple. I've never seen another forklift driver do that. I don't know if it's against the rules, but I've never been told I can't do that. The forklift lets me do it. Anyway, I did notice Miguel saw me do that, and his eyes kind of lit up when he saw me do that, so maybe I gave him an idea. And certainly watching him work gave me ideas, because I was watching the way he was, for lack of a better term, buffering the extra totes in the work zone. And at some points I was looking over, it was like, how the hell is he packing them in that tight and still having room to maneuver in and out of the truck? And of course, I wasn't able to fully watch him when he was doing it because I was still trying to keep my eye on my own work. But is that it? Oh no, it gets way more interesting than that. So there's 4 different zones, loading zones. 3 of them are in the main workspace. 1 of them is in the workspace that had the one dock that's attached. And they're all different sizes. Now they're all 4 totes deep, which for a loading zone isn't very deep. Like, I'm used to the loading zones in inbound, which I don't know how many like pallets deep they are, but they're long, and they're so long that they have front and back halves. So you can load up the front half, close a gate, and water spiders can be coming in the front half while you're loading up the back half. And on days where I'm trying to shuffle stuff specifically to somebody so we can reach a goal, like, I'm kind of leaving a path to the front house so I can manipulate that gate, and a water spider who's like kind of a supervisor, I love working with Victor, can be able to maneuver around and get to this is the one you want, this one's pumping up your numbers, bro, on the side. Yeah, I've learned some tricks. It's when we can make it a game like that, it does just make the work it makes the day go by a lot faster. It makes the work a lot more fun and a lot more challenging. Anyway, so yeah, they're all 4 deep. One of them is two pallets wide. I'm saying pallets. There's like a plastic thing that the totes are on, and I guess that's technically a pallet, although it's not what I think of when I think of a pallet. But so the one on the left is two totes wide, and then I'm trying to think if there was a space between that one or if it's adjacent. Anyway, I've got another one. I think it's exactly adjacent. Then the next one over is 3 totes wide. So 2 times 4, you got 8 totes going in it. And then, but of course, you've got a narrower space to maneuver in it. It's just barely wide enough for the 2 things of totes. The next one is wide enough for 3. So that one holds 4 times 3, so 12. The next 2 over only hold 1 row each. Now the one is wide enough that it's about 50-60% wider than it needs to be, so plenty of clearance. Just roll in there kind of haphazardly at funny angles with 1 tote and line it up in the middle, drop it, and go out. So I can fill that one super quick, but hey, it only holds 4 totes, so I can fill it up pretty quick, but I still got to hop off the forklift and close the gate before anybody can go in, which takes some time. There's a proper way that you're supposed to enter and exit the forklifts that basically involves coming to a full and complete stop and moving your 5 points of contact to 3 points of contact, get out, do your thing. And of course, I can't be, I'm not supposed to be, occasionally I did it, but I'm not supposed to be parked in what's designated as a through space, which is the space directly adjacent to these loading zones and the front end of my workspace, which is about the width of like the safety gates that I mentioned that are between the different work zones. And there's an orange line that kind of designates that where that is, although in the work zone I'm in, that line is pretty much worn away. I can kind of tell where it's supposed to be by where it starts at the one end of the zone, where it starts at the other end of the zone. I'm assuming that line goes straight across. I kind of treated it like it was there, but sometimes I'm like, I'm alone here, screw it. I just stop right outside the gate, jump, close the gate, get back in my forklift and on to the next one. But so anyway, that one, and it's the one that's in the main work zone I'm at, it's wide. It's super easy to get in and out of there. In fact, that one is easier to maneuver in and out of than the one that is 2 totes wide and the one is 3 totes wide, because those ones are just barely wide enough for the 2 or the 3 totes. So you got to position everything just right to get in and out of it. You got to have your angle right going into it. And as it gets more full, of course, it's more difficult to maneuver in it. Then, but wait, there's more. Then there's the 4th one. It also only holds 4 totes, and it is the same depth as the other ones, but it has the barrier to the part of the gate thing right on the edge of it for the little safety gate between the 2 work zones, and it is right tight against the edge of that. Kind of a screwy angle on the edge of it, and it is just barely wide enough for those things. And anyway, difficulty level 9 getting in and out of there. If I had to get in and out of there on my first day, I don't think I would have had a second day, because it's just after a while I learned the tricks of like what angles I had to do to get in and out of there. But man, it is that, like, whoever decided to put that little loading zone there is like nightmares. But sometimes you've got to really work that one to make it work, especially if you're, coming out of that one truck and there's someone in the other one and that's the only one you have direct access to. Anyway, I learned some tricks, and I've been here way too long. I need to get my ass inside, especially since Jim's here. I'll get myself another breakfast. Hey, it's $2. But it's anyway, had an absolute blast. Learned some interesting tricks about, hey, where can I buffer these things out? And it'd be crazy. Like, I have a whole bunch buffered out, and then just a whole bunch of people would show up and pick them up, and it's like, whoa, where'd all my totes go? I've been busting ass, and they're all gone again. But, and then I'm supposed to also operate the safety gates, not only on my side. Now, the other guys will do it on the other side, but sometimes it's not clear for them as to whether or not I'm ready for them to come in or not. Especially since one of the gates is broken, so I'm having to use cones as opposed to a gate. But that actually, and that's for the 1 for 3 wide, that actually had its advantages as well. Anyway, I had a blast. It made the time go so fast. But, oh my gosh, is it fast-paced work. I'm struggling so hard to keep up. And then every now I had like a question like, well, I know I should be taking a break now. Who do I even talk to? And I don't want to leave and just there be nobody loading totes, because obviously all these people are coming here depending on me to have totes for them to take to whatever department they're going to. I did have one random thing that stopped me for a little while. So these totes, when they're in the truck, they're held in with these like come along straps, and I don't know how to work those. I've never worked those before. I mean, they're pretty physically simple, but something that's simple, if you don't know how to use it, can be very difficult. I mean, I remember seeing a YouTube video where some teenager was struggling to use a can opener, and there were a lot of people in the comments section going, hey, I struggle. Like, first time I tried to use a can opener, I couldn't figure it out either. So, I can't say I've ever struggled with a can opener, but I get it. Some things that are simple, if you don't know how to use it, do it, you don't know how to do it. And I was shown super quick. Like, when I asked about it, the guy looked at me like, how do you not know how to work this? I'm like, never worked one before. He showed me really quick, and then he went and did the other one. And I never got to physically do it myself or get the muscle memory of like, okay, this is what my body does to make this work, which is kind of how I need to learn. I can't just watch someone do it and sometimes I can, but a lot of times I can't. And anyway, when it came time and I was alone and I needed to do them, I couldn't seem to figure out how to get the damn things to loosen up. And I was like, they were already tight and I'm making them tighter. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing wrong? And I was just like, yeah, I'm just keep working on the other 2 trucks, and hopefully at some point someone will come in here and help me with this. And I know I'm gonna look like an idiot, but it's like, yeah, I swear to God I know how to operate this forklift, which is a complicated thing, but this little safety strap, this is way beyond my comprehension. As were the clips to remove it from the little braces inside the truck. I struggled with those as well. Now, granted, that only stopped me once. The next time I needed to do them by myself, I was able to do it. So, yay me. Anyway, it is getting rapidly very hot in this car, which reminds me I don't have covered parking here, and it's daytime, so I should probably put this up. So it doesn't get too horribly hot in here. I should also probably take my speaker in, so I don't have to do it later. Anyway, had an absolute blast. I'm definitely looking forward to working there again. Now, obviously, that's a very small department, a very small crew, and they do have regular people that work there. But I did ask the people I work with today, and they were all second half people, meaning that they work from Wednesday night through Saturday night. I'm front half. I work Sunday through Wednesday. So these people both would only be there on that Wednesday night. But I could get used to this being my Wednesday routine, as much as I will miss being part of the Joe Show. I could really enjoy this being my Wednesday routine. And they said, you can come to this department if you want when you come back to work on Sunday, and they'll probably put you to work. And I was like, I feel like inbound really relies on me Sunday. Monday and Tuesday, they love the way I'm handling the pallets, and that's a good thing. But Sunday is the day that I seem to be not only handling the pallets, but also kind of their bench guy that they need to pull in when it gets down to the wire to unload trucks. And so I mean that's where all my friends are. For the most part, last night, other than these other two drivers and then one guy with a big beard that kept coming in, he wasn't wearing like a management vest, but obviously it was management of some kind. He came in on occasion. And at one point I did actually talk to the person who I think was my AM, and I never saw him while I was working. In fact, that was probably one of the more bizarre things I had to deal with, was when it was time for me to take my break. I'm just like, I know I'm supposed to be labor track, but I don't even know who the hell to talk to say, hey, I'm going on a break, so it doesn't look like I just wandered off. But the general vibe I got from other AMs and LPs in the area is, yeah, if you're working in this area, like, you're not working in this area if there's any questions about your work ethic. Just take your breaks. We trust you over here. So that was pretty cool. That was really enjoyable. Anyway, it is becoming an oven in this car, so gotta go. Hopefully that wasn't painfully boring for y'all, and I could go into more minutiae and details because that's just how I am. Like the push it forward method. And when I said push it forward, they thought I meant snow plowing, which is where you literally use the forklift to push it forward. And I'm like, no, I didn't mean that. I always lift it and go forward. I mean, just move it forward. He's like, oh, okay. Because he's like, oh, don't let safety catch you doing that. And I'm like, they won't catch me doing that because I don't do that. I meant like move it forward. He's like, oh, okay. But yeah, sometimes with the one that was 2 totes wide and the one that was 3 totes wide, when it was down to just one of the 4, just the one in the back, I would close the safety gate in the front, especially if there were 2 places where it's down to one in the back. Close the safety gate in the front and then move that one from the back to the front and then quickly put 3 behind it and then close it again. And once I started doing that, I never got behind again. That was the game changer that made it to where nobody ever had to wait for totes from the point I did that. Now, it did seem like the amount of people coming for totes did slow down a little bit. Might have been a factor. I'm certainly eager to do this job again. Or, task position, whatever you want to call it. And it was kind of funny when I was doing that, and I mentioned it, I mentioned it to Miguel, and I think I mentioned the other guy too. They both looked at me like, that's a weird way to do it. But I kind of got the feeling that, hey, as long as I'm following the safety rules, as far as like for, forklift operator, and I'm not dumping anything, and I'm, not blocking any spaces that aren't supposed to be blocked, and I'm not make sure that the gates are, either the front or the back gate is closed at all time, and they're both open. That's, hey, if you figure a routine that works, knock yourself out. And I did have a couple of times where the guy, the big bearded guy, who I guess is a supervisor of some kind, and I didn't see him very often, but we came, he's like, hey, I just need you to really focus and get that truck done. And as far as the TDR, like the person working the airlocks, it was the other 2 forklift drivers were my TDR guys. So, much, much smaller department, but gosh, it was fun. Anyway, I'm really wrapping this up. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.